Imagine this: you're standing in the endless dark of an Arctic winter, where the sun hasn't risen for weeks. The wind howls like a beast from ancient myths, cutting through your bones. In front of you looms a strange, elongated structure, like a ghostly shipwreck wrapped in translucent fabric that billows and snaps in the gale. Inside, a narrow corridor stretches out, dimly lit by 91 tiny flames flickering behind 91 small windows. Each flame illuminates a name etched in metal, a name that belonged to someone who screamed as fire consumed them on this very frozen ground 4 centuries ago. Most of those names are women's, mothers, healers, widows, even a child barely old enough to understand the horror unfolding around her. This is Vardø, a forgotten fishing village at the edge of the world, where 91 people, mostly women, were burned alive for witchcraft in one of Europe's most ruthless purges. A place so remote, so buried in silence, that even the locals didn't know their own history until a decade ago. But today, we're pulling it from the ice. Because what happened here isn't just a dusty tale of superstition, it's a chilling warning about how fear turns neighbors into monsters, grief into genocide, and how an entire community can devour itself when the darkness outside matches the one within. Stick around, this story will haunt you. Vardø isn't just a dot on a map, it's the end of the line. Perched at 70 degrees north on a barren island off Norway's northeastern tip, it's farther east than Istanbul or Cairo, closer to Russia than to Oslo. If you head north from here, there's nothing but sea ice until the North Pole. Winters bring 2 months of polar night, total blackness, where the only light is starshine reflecting off snow or the faint glow of auroras. Temperatures plunge to -30 degrees Celsius, winds blast at hurricane speeds, and disorientation sets in fast you could lose your way stepping out your door. Summers flip the script, endless daylight for 2 months, where the sun circles the sky without setting, blurring time and sanity. Sleep evades you, the world feels like a fever dream in perpetual golden haze. People chose this hellish paradise for one reason: the sea. The Barents Sea teemed with cod, making fin marks scattered communities about 3,000 souls across 18,000 square miles prosperous despite the hardship. Men fished in open boats, braving waves that could swallow them whole. Women ran everything ashore: homes, kids, drying racks where fish hung like silver banners, tiny gardens coaxing life from rocky soil. It was a balanced, if brutal, existence until Christmas Eve, 1617. That day, 40 men from Vardø set out in 10 boats. The cod were plentiful, the weather held promise. Fathers kissed their children goodbye, promising to return by dusk. Young lads tagged along with brothers, eager for their share. Elders, with decades on these waters, read the skies and trusted the currents. But then, as witnesses later described in terrified whispers, the storm erupted as if loosened from a bag. Sky and sea merged in fury, waves towered like mountains. In moments, all 10 boats vanished. 40 men husbands, sons, providers gone in a breath. On shore, women scanned the horizon, hearts pounding. Children tugged at skirts, asking for papa. The silence from the sea grew deafening, turning realization into devastation. This wasn't a loss, it was annihilation. In a village of hundreds, every home echoed with absence. Economically crippled, socially fractured, the gender imbalance left women to shoulder burdens alone. But the deepest wound was spiritual. These devout Protestants saw God's hand in nature storms as judgment, abundance as grace. Why this? Why on Christmas Eve? Why us? The answer they clung to was poison. It wasn't natural. Someone summoned that storm. A witch among them had murdered 40 good men with dark arts. And in Vardø's isolation, no oversight from distant crowns, no escape from each other, that seed of blame sprouted into 70 years of terror. What sets Vardø's witch hunts apart? Location and timing. Most European panics raged in populated areas, with some Czechs Salem had courts, Scotland had kings watching. Vardø? A speck in the Danish-Norwegian kingdom, governed by outsiders, Scots, Germans, Danes shipped north to enforce order and extract taxes. These men carried baggage continental witch-hunting zeal, theological tomes claiming the Arctic was Satan's backyard, closer to Hell's Gates. The indigenous Sami, with their shamanic rituals, drum beats, and nature spirits, were prime suspects, heathens flirting with demons. A 1620 sorcery law greased the wheels. Trials kicked off in 1621 at Vardø's fortress, a star-shaped stone bastion still standing today, courtroom, jail, and symbol of distant power. The first accused, women blamed for the 1617 storm. Proof? None needed. Accusation equaled guilt. Defenses crumbled under torture, the water ordeal, where suspects were hurled into the icy Barents Sea. Float? Which, thanks to saltwater buoyancy. Sink? Innocent but often drowned. Survival meant confession, then fire. Confessions painted vivid nightmares, flying as birds or beasts, Sabbaths on Doman Mountain, a brooding peak nearby, dancing with Satan as a black dog, knotting ropes to whip up winds, cursing fish hauls. These tales, extracted in agony, fed the frenzy. In 1621's mass trial, several women burned alive near the fortress, visible from their cells. Kirsty Sorensdatter, dubbed the Witch's Admiral, went last on April 28, flames licking snow as crowds watched neighbors they once trusted. But it didn't end. Waves crested every few years, port catches, illnesses, odd events reignited paranoia. Accusations snowballed, confessors named names to stop the pain, pulling in kin, friends. In this tight-knit world, betrayals cut deep. Your salt-lending neighbor claims you storm-summoned. Your net-mending pal swears you devil-danced. Old feuds weaponized, land grabs, jealousies, unease with different women, healers using herbs, widows inheriting property, Sami blending traditions. The Sami suffered uniquely. All 14 executed men were Sami, their Noaidi, shamans, vilified. Colonial erasure cloaked as salvation, crush indigenous ways to civilize the North. Norwegian women faced misogyny post-storm, their independence threatened patriarchal order. But Sami? Cultural genocide. No story guts me like Maren Olufsdatter's. 12 in 1663, she'd already lost her mother to the stake years prior, perhaps watched the smoke rise as a toddler. Then her aunt, her last guardian, burned too. Orphaned, traumatized, Maren was hauled to the fortress not as accused, but tool. Interrogated, she spun tales, touring hell's boiling black valley, Satan blasting fire through an iron horn, a Doman Sabbath with Satan fiddling a red violin, serving beer, escorting witches home. Where'd a kid get this? From an Rhodius, exile Oslo astrologer's wife, imprisoned nearby. Bored and coached captives with demonology from banned books, Sabbaths, pacts, flights. Judges lapped it up, ignoring contradictions. Pressed for names, terrified Maren gave 5 women she'd known, perhaps kind aunts or playmates' moms. All burned March 20, 1663, in snow-swept horror. Maren escaped death. Judge Mandra Peterson Skånebø, seeing the insanity, sent her to a workhouse. She lived on in Vardø, amid ghosts of her words' victims. Did families forgive? Did she? Records fade, but imagine, a girl carrying that weight, her innocence scorched before the flames touched her. The 1662–1663 winter was hell's peak. 30 women tried, crammed in the fortresses which hold a frigid, tiny cell. 18 burned, 2 tortured dead, bodies burned anyway. Story seer, Solveig Nielsdatter's giant Duvrefjell Sabbath, witches as cats/dogs, Satan gifting a shoe to dancer Margrethe Jonsdatter after she lost hers. Ingeborg Pettersdatter denied, floated in the sea test, confessed poisonfish spells, died under torture. Barbara Ulsdatter, named by Maren, exposed In's coaching ignored, burned April 8 with 4 others. Executions? No mercy, strangle alive into flames, in Subzero cold, before familiar faces. Crowds included accusers, kin. What does that do? Fractures souls. Trust evaporates, kindness suspects curse, help invites blame. Vardø became a paranoia prison, help none, trust none. Skanabol halted it. Reviewing appeals, he demolished cases, tortured confessions worthless, water tests bunk, no evidence. Risking backlash, locals believed witches real, he refused sentences, demanded reviews. A 1687 law mandated parliamentary oversight, stalling local zeal. Last execution, 1695. Then, oblivion. Shame silenced survivors, your grandpa testified? Your kin burned? Easier to bury. 3 centuries passed, World War II. Nazis razed Vardø in 1944, evacuees fleeing into blizzards. Rebuilding erased physical scars, new trauma overriding old. Until 2011, Queen Sonja unveiled Steilneset Memorial. Peter Zumthor's 125-meter fabric-shrouded walkway houses 91 windows/plaques, historian Liv Helene Willemsen's court translations. Louise Bourgeois' mirrored cube, share amid eternal flames, reflections infinite sit, feel the burn. Visiting? Silence reigns, wind whispers. Read plaques accused of storm summoning. Confessed under torture. Burned. Repetition hammers, each a lifeless Olufsdatter, confessed ship spells, Ingeborg, floated, broken, Kirsty, leader, Solveig, Sabbath, Margrethe, Shu, Barbara, truth teller ignored. Vardø's core? Grief. 1617 storms, random cruelty, unbearable blame, a witch, restore order. Comfort in punishment, overt chaos's terror. But it's delusion, storms are storms. We repeated pandemics, disasters, finger outsiders. Vardø warns, fear forges chains, grief ignites pyres.